This piece of transferred cinefilm was shot in 1964 on Conway Bog, Cloone. Taking part in the Mehel are the late Harry Houston, the late Packy Mitchell, Charlie Donnelly, Robert Mee and Leo Kelly. In the following scenes we see the donkey tramping the mud and the mud being levelled out with the flyboard of a cart pulled by a donkey. Finally, the shaping or running of the turf. Here we are again, almost 30 years later, on the same bog, making mud turf. Two of the men who featured in the 1964 film, namely Robert Mee and Charlie Donnelly, are seen here with Tommy Tiernan, Georgie Crawford, Porry Kelly, John Mee and John McCabe, all from Cloone. Right, they're stripping the bank there.
Stripping the bank now to raise mud for make more turf.
Yeah. And what does that involve?
Well, it involves now throwing up the mud on the bank here and mixing it and...
Yeah, but they're clearing off the topsoil there.
Clearing off the topsoil now and they'll rise in and the sod on the slanings, as they call it, taken off, they'll raise the mud.
Yeah, but why are they throwing the, the topsoil back into the bog hole?
Well, it's no use for turf.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make turf.
Mm.
And when they take off about a foot off it, the next thing is mud to make the turf.
Right.
Now they're raising the mud now.
Yeah.
They're raising the mud now.
Mm-hmm.
And to get down to the water now, they'll have to leave a bay to keep out the water, to get the bottom out of that particular hole.
Yeah.
And sooner or later that will be scattered and more turf made out of it.
Mm-hmm. How far down do you reckon he'll have to go there now before the water comes in?
Well, he'll only have to go about 3 spit now they are.
Yeah. And what's a spit? It's a slan.
Spit would be slan and depth.
Yeah.
I'd reckon he's lifting more than the turf and depth or slan and spit and depth.
Yeah, he's using a spade there.
Mm.
Yeah. Right, he's building a stank or a bay.
He's building the bay now.
Mm.
And to get the bottom out of the hole now, out of the bog hole.
Mm.
You're not getting the bottom out of it. You will, go on, Charlie, you will, huh?
Was it usually only one man done it?
What?
Was it usually only one man done it?
Ah, several could do it if you had the hole big enough.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
But that's only a confined bit now.
Right.
But that's the procedure now. You see the sense of it now round about there to keep out the water from taking over where he's working.
Yeah. Well, he's sort of digging in the middle there and building a bank round himself.
He lives in the bay.
Yeah.
That's to keep out the water, otherwise the water would be in and he wouldn't see what he'd be doing.
Right.
That's set up. No. So, and when he goes down a certain distance there, the bay could give way and the water take over.
Right, right.
Huh?
has to be pulling you.
This is good now.
We're good.
At this stage, the man in the bank had to get out.
Aye, the
Yeah.
water come in.
And that was the end of taking it out of the bog hole.
That finished that.
Ask you, what exactly is mud turf? I mean, mud turf is the remnants of a bog, really, isn't it?
Yes. The all fall off the Schleien turf. What was left, we'll say, there was broke off Schleien turf and part of the Schleienens of the hay bank. That,
And are you saying now, about 100 years ago, that this bog would have been much higher than it is today?
It could be as high as any man that's here, as high as Georgie Crawford before it was cut away now.
Yeah. Well, I'm just making the comparison with the bank out here now.
Aye,
Would
you
it have been as high as now as that?
It was or higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. That pass went lower from traffic and on it all the time.
Yeah.
It sank.
Yeah.
It would be higher than that. A lot higher.
So really, judging from the pass over there, we've
Aye.
gone down about what? About...
Oh, no, you're down 5 feet, 6 feet there.
Yeah.
You're down 6 feet there
Yeah.
from the original pass.
Yeah. And you were saying that it would have been Schleien turf that would have been taken off that
Aye.
previous to
Yeah.
what we're doing here today.
If you cut the pass now, you could cut it with a Schleien and get Schleien turf without taking mud turf.
Yeah. And do you not think mud turf now is an awful waste of a bog?
Well, it's waste up to a point, you see, because what they're leaving after you is a total waste. That's no pure waste there, never will be good for anything.
Yeah.
Except maybe in 1,000 years when it will grow again or something.
Yeah.
No.
And if mud turf was to be continuously taken off this bog, do you think, how long more would it take to wear out the bog?
Well, whatever acreage is here and whatever amount of turf you cut every year or take off it or make off it, well, I suppose it would last maybe 50 or 60 years, the whole of this.
Yeah.
No, within turf is and all round about it's an acre of ground or maybe more.
Yeah. Well, say now this bog hole here, it has been... Why is that bog hole there?
Because the mud is taken out of it, there's nothing left in.
Yeah. So really we could take mud turf from here up to the far end of the bog there. Yeah. Yeah.
You could, aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
You could go up now to the bottom of the yard where they're coming with asses there. Now. When, I don't think you could go any further. You'd be coming into the arable land then, more or less.
Yeah.
You'd be, it shouldn't be good to burden anyway.
Right, Robert, what are they doing here now?
They're scattering the mud now for the asses to tramp it, first procedure. And after that, after it's spread, the asses will go through it and tramp it dry.
Yeah.
And after that, then when it's broken pretty well, if the water is added to it, put on it,
Yeah.
and is still tramped away until it's got into a putty set up, more or less.
Well, they're not using the asses now at the moment, they're graping it.
Graping it, scattering it.
Yeah.
They're making it ready for the asses. That's the procedure.
And what's the idea of what they're doing now?
For to make it that the asses can tramp it, go through it, and making it in such a way as that the asses won't get stuck in it, you know, that they'll be able to pull their feet out.
Yeah.
That's the setup now.
Well, say now, going back in years, would they not have used the asses to more or less tramp it dry rather than graping it?
Well, they do both. Can do it either way. They can help to break it with the grapes and use asses as well. But what they're doing now is to make it level enough and shallow enough for the asses to tramp it, to get down to through it, you know, to the surface,
Yeah.
to the bottom of the pit.
Yeah.
That's the idea of that now.
Yeah. And if there were any old stones or bits of, you know, bog oak or things like that, that would be taken out of it.
That has to be taken out. They're already at that, doing that now.
Yeah.
There's never much stones in a bog anyway, but there's timber, logs and old rotten timber.
Yeah.
And
well, I suppose the idea of it was that originally, before they used asses, they used to do it in their bare feet, using they?
well, they do it all the time with the bare feet up to, I don't know whether these fellas is taking off the boots now or not. They'll have to take off the boots to give it the right.
Right. Yeah, and why do they do it in their bare feet, you know?
Because
why would they
the Wellingtons, they get stuck with the Wellingtons, and the Wellington would come off and they'd be... the Wellingtons, of course, were only... What are we on about now?
Well, we're talking about the Wellingtons and the boots. Why you have to do it in your bare feet?
Because it's easier to walk through it in your bare feet than to wear a Wellington in it.
Uh-huh.
It's too hard on your legs to pull the Wellingtons up out. It's like going into a mucky gap now.
Yeah. What do you mean? The Wellingtons and the boots will get stuck in the mud?
Stuck on them.
Right.
And if you were at it from 10 o'clock in the morning till 7 in the evening, you'd be wore out before dinner time with the boots on you, wherein if you hadn't the boots on you, you were quite light on foot in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was, in other words, the boots was holding you back or more hardship.
Yeah, yeah.
That's very heavy for it.
Take it out. As you come across it.
Well, it had to be levelled out to a certain consistency as well.
About 6 or 7 inches deep, it would be on the bank to have it right.
Yeah.
And then when it's broken and tramped and wet, it's levelled again for the running.
Right.
That's the setup.
Yeah.
So no. There's quite a good bit in that, mind you.
There is actually, yeah.
There'll be a trailer load of turf in it when they be dry.
Yeah.
I don't. Face them back.
Charlie, quit pegging for a minute.
No, I don't.
Charlie, pull up that trailer.
You won't get the way. That'll do.
The never queen then.
Come on, then, keep fishing in the water now.
Oh, geez, that's a lovely shot. What is he doing?
Right, what are they doing now, Robert?
Oh, they're wetting it now, and it'll have to be tramped again now, the water put through it.
Yeah.
And the next procedure after that will be is turn it.
Yeah.
And tramp it again and wet it.
Yeah.
And after that again, it'll be spread out and for running.
Yeah.
To make it turf and depth.
Yeah. Well, is there anything peculiar about the buckets that they're using?
No,
they're just ordinary buckets.
Ordinary iron bucket.
Yeah, yeah.
It has to be iron, that's just all.
Yeah. And did you ever hear anything, you know, that water, you know, coming off arable land would be more fruitful than water coming off the bogland itself?
Well, you need the bog water for the turf. Thereable water would make the turf too heavy.
Yeah.
And wouldn't be as good burning.
Really?
No.
I always thought that water coming, you know, draining off arable land would be...
No, it'll spoil the turf. No, it'll spoil the turf.
Would it?
Spoil the turf.
Yeah.
No. Now, questions you have to ask me now.
Yeah. It seems to be awful hardship on the donkeys, doesn't
It
it?
is because the bank, I'll tell you, underneath is too soft. On account of the water being so high, it leaves the bog soft.
Oh, right.
And the machinery here taking away has done it harm.
Yeah.
Try not abuse them anyway, Georgie. James, don't turn her that short. No.
But 4 donkeys have been the usual amount, you know,
I've
used
seen
going back in years.
I've seen 6 and 7.
Did you?
I did, but the
Yeah.
ground would be good and firm under their feet.
Yeah.
But that bank has gone soft with the wet weather and all that.
Yeah.
But they're doing fine now because the masses, except one of them, never was in mud turf till today.
Yeah.
And there's no nothing about it, you know.
Yeah.
It's new to them.
Yeah. Well, going back in years, you know, I mean, mud turf would have been it would have been very common around Cloone, wouldn't it?
Oh, it was.
Yeah. So donkeys would have been well used to
They
it.
would, aye,
Yeah.
they'd be used to it.
Yeah. And they always sort of used an experienced ass or 2 experienced asses with maybe 3 others inexperienced
Aye,
ones, and that's how they learned how
that's
to do
it,
it.
and they learned off the older ones.
Right.
They got on to their job.
Yeah. That was another thing I was to ask you, Robert. You know, they could have made turf without the donkeys, really,
You
couldn't they?
could make it with grapes and that, but it's a very slow process.
Yeah.
No, and it was more elbow work to it, you know, than with the donkeys.
Yeah.
Aye.
What do you mean? They just used the grapes, was
Aye,
it?
and use the grape. Now, they'd want to go around the edge of that with the grape as it is now, where the asses doesn't hit at all, you know.
Yeah.
You can see yourself now, it's coming into a putty now.
Yeah, I can see that indeed.
Aye.
Yeah.
That damn bank now is soft.
And what advantage would the donkeys have over the graping?
Well, they give it a better mix now, and they're going to a more of a putty with the donkeys, than they'd make it tougher now, in other words. The material, they'd make it tougher
Yeah.
and be more sticky, you know, in plain language,
Yeah.
to stay together. So it would. Soft with the wet weather, and
Yeah.
they're afraid, you say.
Yeah.
They're afraid. Otherwise, they'd fly through that, you know. Trailer load out of that when they be
Would there? Yeah.
saved and ready for drawing or burning.
Who the fuck's taking them up?
I know who you think.
I know they just had the ass that's used to it.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Which now? He's the ass on the inside, is it?
He'd be easier turned or kept swung round.
That half had to be put in the inside in the beginning. Right, that to be the tail part. Come on.
Come on, Georgie. Come on, there's one. No, Willie. No, Willie. Come on. You didn't get one of them at this.
Boring.
Hey, Charlie, how you done there?
What are you out there, Sean? What are you at, Sean?
Come on, come on now. Good. Come on, bounce it, man. The white. Come on. Come on.
I need. Oh, wait, Caroline, stop.
John Gannon already started the grape round there.
Sorry, Rob. Bit close here. To make it into the mix.
Take about 3 hours now to have that ready for
Would it?
running.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, if it was different type of weather we had here before, that the ground was dry and everything, get through it quicker.
Right.
Faster now.
Yeah.
Oh, you would.
Yeah. And I mean, the men who are throwing in the water, they have to judge how much water they can throw on it.
You'll know, you'll be able to judge anyone of experience, used to it, will know when it's ready for running now, or they'll know when there's enough of water.
Yeah. Well, what stage now is it at now, Robert?
Well, it's not too far off now, being ready for spreading out for running.
Right. Right.
You don't have to have it too wet, you know.
Yeah.
You run it.
Well, an experienced mud turf man would know exactly how much water to put on it.
There's enough on it for now anyway, and
yeah.
If the asses can go through it again, it'll put the water through it and it'll take away the overflow of water, and along with that...
yeah, but they're actually turning the turf now with shovels.
Yes, they're turning it with shovels.
And what's the idea of that?
Well, it's to mix it, to give it a proper good mix, and the turf, when they're lifting out here, when they're dry, they lift better off the ground than if it wasn't turfing, and you have a better turf.
Right.
And there won't be as bricky.
Right.
No.
Well, it's more or less to get the water completely, you know, to mix the water completely through the mud.
And you see underneath now, even you see the water flowing around there, it'll be still dryish underneath.
Right.
No, it's a matter of getting the ground wet underneath as well, and it'll make the turf come up easier to lift when it comes to that time.
Right.
No. So that's the idea of that now. I didn't think they'd take off the Welland hunts today, but
they did, yeah. Well, I think it was the most sensible thing to do, really.
Oh, God, I'd kill you to walk through it with Welland hunts on you.
Yeah.
They'd stick in that and pull off you anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah, because I'm sure it's pretty sticky.
Same as going through a mucky gap.
I'm sure. As you and I well know.
Aye.
Why did the asses go through it the second time, Robert?
To make it tough now and leave it that the turf will stick together better. No.
Yeah.
That's the story on that.
Well, what exactly now are they doing at the moment?
They're levelling it now for running to make the turf.
Yeah.
To form the turf. That's what they're at present now. And the next procedure is to run it.
Yeah.
Make it into turf.
Yeah, but does it have to be a certain depth now?
It have to be half the depth of the blade of the shovel now, which would be 4 to 5 inches. So now that's the story on that.
Yeah.
So it is. That's the story on that.
Yeah, it still seems to be fairly heavy here in the middle, doesn't it?
Well, they're pushing it out the bank, you see, at this stage now. The level is much better now when they have the heavy end of it pushed out.
Yeah, was there a certain knack into it now? You know, I mean, an experienced mudman would know.
Well, the experienced fellas understand now the depth and
Yeah,
whatever it requires.
yeah, right.
But other than that, no, it's, anyone that was in the habit of it did know the procedure as it goes along.
Right, right. Why is the donkey being used with the... Why is the tailboard, or the flyboard, I should say, being used there?
To level the pit for the necessary depth.
Yeah,
No. And it leaves it easier on the men, you know.
yeah.
So
Well, this was actually done now before the running was done. Yeah.
So now that's the procedure in that line.
And what is that? It's just the ordinary tailboard of a cart, is it?
The flyboard
The
of a
flyboard
cart.
of a
yeah.
cart. Right, right.
Yeah.
Good water for the feet, huh? And it's good for the cartons and the school.
Because you're made progress in there.
Well, June was traditionally the lazy month of the year for the farmer, wasn't it, Robert?
That's correct.
Yeah,
He worked on the turf on the bog general at that time of year,
yeah,
before he started to save the hay.
yeah.
It was a kind of an idle time, you know. So that,
Well, you were talking there about the what fly?
the devil's needles,
All right.
they're extinct now. I don't see them anymore over the bog holes. I see them flying in dozens of them.
Yeah,
Or a book like an aeroplane, bowing along, you know, over the water.
yeah,
And it was very interesting to watch them.
yeah. There was a lot of them around here, was there?
There was a sight of them.
Yeah.
But they are gone, no more than the Carden Creek. They're extinct now.
All right. Yeah,
No.
yeah. Can you remember a certain amount of excitement now building up to a day in the bog?
You would. You'd be sort of looking forward to whether it be a gang. I mean, it's not like now, you know, there's few people about now to muster up and go together. We went around now, 9 or 10 neighbours would go to you today and me tomorrow and some other one the next day, and that's the way we work. In bunts, as they used to call it.
In what? Bunts?
Bunts.
Bunts.
Aye.
Was that another
That
word
was
for a mehel?
That was a term they used for the crowd on the bog.
Yeah, yeah.
And so on and so forth like that, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was a sort of a holiday then on the bog. You cheerlead around with the ones on the bog, and you had all the latest that time. There was no television or no wireless, and it was all local talent that time.
Right. Right.
No.
Right. You don't remember anything unusual or anything different happening on days in the bog? You don't remember any tricks now? I can remember one thing about someone, they cut a bit of old bog oak and they gave it to one of the other fellas that they were working with, and they pretended that was a piece of steak, and he bit into it, and, you know, he actually thought it was meat. You never heard anything like that?
I didn't come across that.
Yeah,
no.
yeah. Yeah, but there was a lot of fun attached to it
There
too.
was a great lot of fun attached to it, surely. No?
Yeah.
It was very good and enjoyable, and you washed yourself in the evening when you come out of the mud turf there, and you were fresh as a daisy.
Right.
And it was good for the cordons too.
Was it?
It was.
Yeah. Well, watching you throwing the buckets of water out there on the turf, bog water is supposed to be very, very cold, isn't it?
It is.
Even in the month of June.
It is, and there's healing powers in the bog water too.
Yeah.
And for reducing swellings or anything like that now.
Yeah.
If you had a swelling in an awkward place, The bog water reduces.
Try, you need lots of that fish.
Yeah. Well, have you known that to be true, Robert?
Aye. I've seen them bringing home the bog water
Yeah.
to wash and do different things with it. There was supposed to be certain ingredients in it that wasn't in the ordinary water.
Right. Right, this is what they call running the
That's
turf.
running the turf now, that's finishing them off now.
And what depth would that be now, approximately?
Roughly 4.5, 5 inches.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That'd be what, a spit, would it?
Well, you don't count the spits in mud turf. The slain turf, you'd call it a spit. But
And is there a knack in the way that they do it with their hands?
there is. You just press them together now, and
Can you show me how they're doing it, you know, yourself?
you can, of course.
No, well, just now, no, don't create the turf, just show me.
That way,
Just hold out your hands there, Robert. Yeah,
that way.
yeah. So it's the breadth of your two hands,
With
really?
your two hands,
Yeah, yeah.
cast together. See by looking at them, they are the way it works. And when they get the weathered in, where they are marked along, the crack out at that.
Right. Right.
No.
So it's an art in itself.
An art in itself, no. An art in itself.
Yeah. And does the mud split automatically? You
It
know?
will when it's saving or when it's drying out.
Yeah.
It will crack out, the turf will crack out separately now, every one of them.
Right.
By the way. That's,
No, there'll be 100 cooking on the smoke, put the smoke out under the door.
Not fancy for us there.
all right?
Why would they not do it with a spade now?
Well, you have to press them together to make them stick.
Yeah.
Spade wouldn't do the job.
Yeah.
No, couldn't be at all. It would be no comparison. And they stand up to the weather better with the hands than with to use anything else.
Yeah. And the only disadvantage now after this would be heavy rain, wouldn't
Heavy
it?
rain now would spoil them now. It were better to get a dry day or a dry night and day anyway after they're made.
Yeah. You were saying that heavy rain would take the skin off it.
Heavy rain had run them into fill up the grooves, you see, and they'd be all in a flake. One. So,
Yeah. So when they reach this stage, you'd really need a spell of good dry weather.
it really needs a good spell of dry weather now, and
Yeah.
they're easier saved too than when the skin is broken on them with rain, you know.
Right. We didn't have a great summer really, Robert, up to
No,
this.
the summer wasn't suitable at all for turf, for these type of turf anyway.
Right. Because
Yeah.
it's been 2 months since we've been here on the bog last.
Yeah,
And
it is.
yeah,
And
and
they're only a lifting now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because the bog was fairly wet. It got fairly wet in between times.
The bog underneath them was flooded nearly.
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
That's the lifting of them now, isn't that it?
That's the next next stage in
The
the
lifting them, and
Well, what do you think of that turf there now, Robert?
that turf is perfect now for lifting. And the next stage now is to Wine Road after it's lifted.
Yeah, but looking at it there now on the top, do you think it's well seasoned or well?
Oh, it is. It's pretty good now.
Right.
It's very good.
Okay. Right. Well, we'll get our workers to work, will we?
Aye.
Yeah, my God, the same as it is here.
Right. Yeah. It looks. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of grass there at the back on the bottom half.
The grass was coming up through them.
Yeah. That's not unusual now.
No.
Yeah.
not unusual, right?
Yeah. Because really, you know, it looks like clay on the other side, doesn't it?
On the top.
Well, on this side, yeah. Doesn't it?
It does. Well, there's certain amount of variable water got mixed with the bog water that causes that.
Mm-hmm. Is there a technique now to what they're doing there?
Pardon?
Is there a technique to what they're doing there?
Not really. It's the usual setup for that.
Mm-hmm.
So it is. They are, you see. They're sort of gone past that lifted. The grass, you see, is beginning to
Why do you think they should be lifted a month ago, Charlie?
Well, they weren't fit with the bad weather.
Yeah.
They weren't.
And would bad weather now have an adverse effect on them?
It would.
Yeah.
It would now. Should they'd be fit to burn now if you had good weather like what's just gone by?
Yeah.
They'd be at home.
Mm.
In the shed if it was natural summer.
Mm-hmm. Because, you know, I always imagined that when they were ran, you know, they were quite big. You know, the brick shape was quite big. They're still big turf, aren't they?
They are. Well, they'll reduce now as they're drying out.
Mm.
The same as these ones here now.
Yeah.
They have reduced a bit because they're taken up.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain to me what a windrow is?
Well, it's just a setup for drying the turf when they're lifted.
Okay.
It's a windrow is a windrow.
Yeah.
It's a windrow, not a windrow.
Right.
So that's it. It has this title, you see, a windrow.
Yeah. And what do you mean now, the turf?
The wind gets through them on their windrow to dry them.
Yeah.
That's the story on them.
Yeah. So it would be wind more than sun that would dry out.
Well,
that
more or less. Both does a good job.
Yeah.
The sun and the wind, both.
Mm-hmm.
Does a great job on them.
Yeah. Well, as the name implies, I would always imagine that there were spaces between the turf now. There doesn't seem to be that. Are there spaces there?
There is now. There could be more spaces. I tell you, if they were stood up straighter.
Well, as a rule now, if the weather was favourable, how long would it take? How long would they be kept in windrows or windrows, as you call them?
It'd be only about 3 weeks if it was normal weather.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd be fit to bring home. You could put them in a clamp after if you wished.
Right. And would mud turf ever be put into footings?
Some puts them in footings and some prefers to just do the windrow.
Right.
No.
Right.
They're kind of too short of a turf for a footing.
Mm-hmm.
You want the middling long one for the footing that he'll be able to reach across on two turf. And you leave windows in them then that the wind gets through.
Right.
But that's the general rule of the turf of the windrow and mud turf.
Would it usually have been the women that would have done that job now?
Oh, the women done it back years ago, but there's no women doing it less than that now. The women is out of the picture now.
Yeah, yeah.
I seen the women raping oats with the hook.
Did you? Yeah. But you seen them doing this job as well?
I seen that fella's mother doing it.
Right.
And twins in the field propped with sheaves of oats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's not bull, I'm telling you.
How much, how long do you think this turf would last a household?
I'd say now, roughly about 2 months fire there.
Yeah.
About what you keep a house going for 2 months.
Yeah.
In this.
Yeah.
Long.
So it wouldn't really bring them over the winter?
What?
It wouldn't bring them over the winter?
It would not, no.
Yeah.
It would not. There's about 2 months fire in it now.
Yeah.
Where there'd be average burning, you know.
Yeah. I know you said there was longer last in mud turf.
There would be, yes.
Yeah.
They'd last longer now than a slain turf or they're heavy turf.
Yeah.
What we call stone turf.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. because, I don't know, they feel very light to me.
You'd hit on some of the bits of clods now that they'll be light, but
Yeah,
on the whole now, when they dry out, they'll be heavy.
yeah. And I know I asked you already, but would a wet season have an effect on them?
It has an effect. It takes them longer to save, and
But, yeah, but even when they're saved then, would it still not have a bad effect on them?
well, it washes a lot of the good out of them, you know, the oil
Right,
out of them,
yeah.
and takes the skin off them after they're made.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, because they got a good week's drying now after they were
Made.
made.
Yeah.
So the skin would have formed on them.
Yeah, it would have. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
They seem all right now.
Yeah. What equipment on this donkey?
The pardon?
The equipment on him.
Well, the mats is the first thing on his back.
That's this here.
Yeah.
What are they?
And
What's
it's-
inside there?
It should be a straw mat, but it's a substitute for the straw.
Right.
And there's a belly girt holding it on.
Where's that?
It's underneath, round his body.
All right, I see it there.
And the straddle is next in for holding the creels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're hung onto, the creels are hung on 2 pins attached to the straddle.
Uh-huh.
And there's an erish in each creel to hang on the pin.
What do you mean now? That's the handle of the creel
Yeah,
here.
what we call an erish.
Right.
And is there anything more now?
Yeah, this bit of rope going back here.
That's at the back end under his tail. That's called the crupper.
Uh-huh.
That's called the crupper,
Yeah.
to keep the thing from going across his head,
Right.
to keep the mats and the straddle and the whole issue from
The whole lot
going
in
out on
place.
his neck.
Right. Okay.
No,
So that's it.
that's the story on the whole.
What's the meaning of the word? Is that an Irish word, Irish?
Well, I'm not able to define that end of it, but I figure it's an Irish word, an Irish term.
Right.
Come on.